Donald just hit Obama with a new nickname, even Barack knows it's a perfect fit. President Trump uses a very effective means of denigrating his opponents. He nicknames them. It has worked on virtually every person he's used it on and is a lethal political weapon. Most notable is probably Elizabeth Warren. Because of her Pocahontas label, she'll forever be associated with her fake claim of Indian heritage. Recently, when President Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, the commander-in-chief leveled criticism at his predecessor Barack Obama and his socialist policies using this technique. Trump did an interview last week with CNBC's Squawk Box co-host Joe Kernen. During that chat, he addressed concerns that his approach to the Russian strongman was too timid. He correctly pointed out that his approach and actions concerning Russia have been far tougher on Russia than any modern president. I have to agree with that statement. If you just look at Trump's actions that he has taken against Russia during his time in office, that is a very valid statement. As Nikki Haley just pointed out in an interview on the Christian Broadcasting News with anchor David Brody, well, first of all, we don't trust Russia, Haley responded forcefully. We don't trust Putin, we never will, they're never gonna be our friend, that's just a fact. But what I do think is, whether it's the president sitting down with Kim Jong-un, or whether the president sits down with Putin, those are things that have to happen, she continued. You can't get to the end of the other side if you don't have those conversations. That's exactly right. Meeting with allies and foes is the president's job, and he has a responsibility to sit down with world leaders and at least attempt diplomacy. Haley also defended Trump's practice of meeting with the less savory world leaders in private, saying that it was just his style and that he believed he could get more out of them in private. I also agree with that stance, it's the personal touch that wins this game many times. The media is also acting as a hostile entity in all of this, and they are an enemy of the state and Americans in general at this point, so they should be kept at arm's length. Let Trump conduct business where he can get the best result as long as he does not overstep constitutional or congressional boundaries. Trending, host on The View just suddenly confirmed she's leaving the show, viewers shocked. Even though Trump is defending his meeting with Putin and says that he has a goal of getting along with him, he said that his strategy could change if negotiations do not work out as he hopes. I'll be his worst nightmare, but I don't think it will be that way, Trump said. I actually think we'll have a good relationship. That's what all Americans should hope for. That we can find a way to get along. But the left evidently wants war instead, not because they hate the Russians, but because they hate Trump. As President Trump was addressing the issue of Russia and Putin, he also shifted his focus to former President Barack Obama by favorably comparing his own response to Russian aggression. Obama didn't do it, he said of his administration's efforts. Obama was a patsy for Russia. A total patsy. Bingo. That's an obvious statement if I ever heard one, and a name that will stick with Obama. He was flexible with Putin, and Obama never met an enemy of the US that he didn't grovel before. Obama's foreign policy screamed weakness to the world. Trump's is the polar opposite of that approach. Watch. It's a shame that President Trump has to defend his actions on Russia and state how tough he is on them when it is obvious he is if you look at his record at all. The president went on to tout several comments he has made on Russia. He also mentioned actions imposed by the White House and Congress. Look at all the things I've done, Trump stated. Chief among those actions are repeated and strengthened additional sanctions on Russia. To be fair, Obama also placed sanctions on Russia's economy after they invaded Crimea in 2014. Although, most of them were fairly toothless. The same year, the US and other member nations of the political forum then known as the G8 decided to expel Russia, forming what is now called the G7. Look at the diplomats I threw out, Trump said, referring to a move earlier this year in response to reports that Russian agents carried out a public poisoning in the United Kingdom. He also shut down several Russian diplomatic residences in the US. The media, of course, spins all of this and just makes crap up about Trump's reactions to the expulsion of Russian diplomats. They are for the most part outright lies. For instance, The Washington Post claims Trump reportedly felt the U.S. responded disproportionately to specific nations in the European Union concerning Russia's actions. We kicked a total of 60 Russian diplomats out of the country in March. Trump is adamant that, getting along with President Putin, getting along with Russia, is positive, not a negative. Thus, he has invited Putin to the White House for talks this fall. I have to admit, I'm not thrilled with that. But as I said before, you can't reach détente without speaking to one another. Perhaps America would be well served if they trusted their president to do what is in our best interests geopolitically in all of this. Patsy Obama certainly didn't. He darn near destroyed us by giving everything